A synagogue is a Jewish or really Samaritan house of worship. Synagogues have a place for prayer and may also have rooms for study, a social hall, and offices. Some have a separate room for Torah study, called the Beth Midrash, lit. Quote, house of study. Synagogues are consecrated spaces used for the purpose of prayer, reading of the Tanakh, study and assembly. However, a synagogue is not necessary for Jewish worship. Halakha holds that communal Jewish worship can be carried out wherever 10 Jews assemble. Worship can also be carried out alone or with fewer than 10 people assembled. However, Halakha considers certain prayers as communal prayers and therefore they may be recited only by a minyan, in terms of its specific ritual and liturgical functions. The synagogue does not replace the long since destroyed temple in Jerusalem. Israelis use the Hebrew term Beit Knesset, house of assembly. Ashkenazi Jews have traditionally used the Yiddish term shul in everyday speech. Sephardi Jews and Romaniote Jews generally use the term kal. Spanish Jews call the synagogue an esnoga and Portuguese Jews call it a sinagoga. Persian Jews and some Karaite Jews also use the term keneza, which is derived from Aramaic, and some Mizrahi Jews use kenis. Some Reform and Reconstructionist Jews use the word temple. The Greek word synagogue is used in English to cover the preceding possibilities. Although synagogues existed a long time before the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE. Communal worship in the time while the temple still stood focused mostly on korbanot as he offered the day sacrifices and prayed for his success. According to Jewish tradition, the men of the Great Assembly formalized and standardized the language of the Jewish prayers. Prior to that, people prayed as they saw fit, with each individual praying in his or her own way, and there were no standard prayers that were recited. Yohanan ben Zakkai, one of the leaders at the end of the Second Temple era, promulgated the idea of creating individual houses of worship in whatever locale Jews found themselves. This contributed to the continuity of the Jewish people by maintaining a unique identity and a portable way of worship despite the destruction of the temple. According to many historians, synagogues in the sense of purpose-built spaces for worship, or rooms originally constructed for some other purpose but reserved for formal communal prayer, however, existed long before the destruction of the Second Temple. The earliest archaeological evidence for the existence of very early synagogues comes from Egypt, where stone synagogue dedication inscriptions dating from the 3rd century BCE prove that synagogues existed by that date. More than a dozen Jewish Second Temple-era synagogues have been identified by archaeologists in Israel and other countries belonging to the Hellenistic world. Any Jew or group of Jews can build a synagogue. Synagogues have been constructed by ancient Jewish kings, by wealthy patrons, as part of a wide range of human institutions including secular educational institutions, governments, and hotels, by the entire community of Jews living in a particular place, or by subgroups of Jews arrayed according to occupation, ethnicity, style of religious observance, or by the followers of a particular rabbi. It has been theorized that the synagogue became a place of worship in the region upon the destruction of the Second Temple during the First Jewish-Roman War. However, others speculate that there had been places of prayer, apart from the temple, during the Hellenistic period. The popularization of prayer over sacrifice during the years prior to the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE had prepared the Jews for life in the diaspora, where prayer would serve as the focus of Jewish worship. Despite the possibility of synagogue-like spaces prior to the First Jewish-Roman War, the synagogue emerged as a stronghold for Jewish worship upon the destruction of the temple. For Jews living in the wake of the revolt, the synagogue functioned as a portable system of worship. Within the synagogue, Jews worshiped by way of prayer rather than sacrifices, which had previously served as the main form of worship within the Second Temple. In 1995, Howard Lee Clark argued that synagogues were not a developed feature of Jewish life prior to the Roman-Jewish War of 70 AD. He interpreted his findings as evidence that the mentions of synagogues in the New Testament, including Jesus's visitations of synagogues in various Jewish settlements in Israel, were anachronistic. However, by 2018, Mordecai Ewing reported that there were now at least 9 synagogues excavated known to predate the destruction of the Jerusalem temple in AD 70, including in Magdala, Gumla, Mesida, Herdoyim, Modi'in, Kiryat Sefer, and Kh. Diab. Ewing concluded that he thought almost every Jewish settlement at the time, whether it was a polis or a village, had a synagogue. Furs